Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is 903 Sports. I am your host, Cameron Brown, joined by the boys, Mason Cudd, Hunter Shattuck, Jeffrey Yeager, and first-time guest, my man, Dillon Haltom, here to talk a little NBA. Dillon, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We'll jump right into it. A ton is going on in the NBA. The play-in started this week. Playoffs are coming up. I am probably more excited about the NBA playoffs than I ever have been, just because there's so many good basketball teams this year. It's not like when we were in high school, it was Warriors, Cavs, and that was a fun trilogy for a while. And then, Spurs, Heat, and all that. I think there's 7 different teams that can win it all. So we'll jump right into it. NBA play-in was last night. Timberwolves come back to beat the Clippers, and the Nets took care of the Cavs. And then tonight we got Hawks, Hornets, and then very interesting game for Cudd and Dillon tonight. Spurs guys, you got Spurs and Pelicans tonight. So, Dillon, I'll jump with you. My first question is, what are your thoughts on the play-in game? It's new. It's the second year. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What are your thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts on that, I absolutely hated it. I was like, if you're not one of the top 8 teams
I agree.
throughout 82 games, then why do you deserve it? Now, as a Spurs fan who's dealing with a 10 seed, I kind of like it. It really does discourage tanking, in my opinion, because we had every right to tank and just get a better draft pick this year, and we just kept playing, and here we are, could sneak in as an 8 seed, and I'm excited for it. So
the games have been good too. Like the games last night were fun to watch. The Cavs came back and made it a good game, and then the Timberwolves Clippers was a hell of a game last night.
Yeah, it has been fun, and it helps too when you have star players playing in it. Last year, LeBron and Steph. This year, you have Kevin Durant, Trae Young in it. So
yeah, it keeps the eyes on it. And I agree, that does kind of get rid of the tanking, because like when the bubble started, when they had all that, there was like the Magic had a chance to make a run. It was an outside shot, but they had a chance to get in. So yeah, that's a good point. And like you said, the Spurs have a shot. They didn't have the best of seasons, but they're young and they're building something, and they could get some momentum, just like the Suns did 2 or 3 years ago in the bubble, and then the rest is history.
Right. And that's another thing that helps young teams gain some confidence, I think. Like if the Spurs can sneak in and play the 1-seeded Suns right now, that would be huge for them.
Yeah, it's great experience for those guys. So Hunter, I'll ask you, what are your thoughts on the play-in game, on the play-in?
I mean, I'm indifferent, right? So I like it in theory. I like that they're trying to do something about tanking. That's fine. Dillon sounds like he's pretty firm that it does help against tanking. I'm not so sure that it does, but it's probably too early to tell for sure. I mean, I think I'm kind of building a reputation on this podcast of being anti letting a bunch of teams in the postseason.
That is your reputation.
And I have some thoughts on the NBA postseason that I think I might wait a little bit later to get into that. But I mean, 10 is way too many teams. What are we doing?
It is.
This is ridiculous. 10 teams. There are 30 teams in the league, and 20 of them get in the postseason.
But it's sudden death. It's sudden death, though. So it's technically not the playoffs.
2/3.
It's not like it's a 7-game series for the 9 versus the 10. It's one game.
So I'm gonna hold off on my big picture NBA postseason stuff for a little bit. I do like the television aspect. They're a heck of a lot of fun to watch, and that's ultimately the goal, right? It's an entertainment product.
Yeah, count me in.
So it's a lot of fun. I like it in theory. I like the idea of adding a kind of this extra element to, you give teams this opportunity to they were outside of the picture, but then, hey, they just won a couple games and now they get a chance to go after one of the big ones. I like it in theory, I guess.
From a fan's perspective, I liked it. At first, I was like, I kind of agree. I was like, okay, this is a little silly, but after watching the last 2 years, I like it, man. I think it's cool. It's an extra piece of the game, and we get to watch, like Dillon said, there's stars playing in this thing. We got Trae Young, we got Kevin Durant, we got Kyrie Irving, and last year we had LeBron and Steph and Ja Morant. So that is another aspect. So Jeff, let me get your thoughts on this, and then we'll move on to your thoughts on the play-in game.
I actually like the play-in game, believe it or not. I think it's fun. Like, I enjoyed when the NFL expanded the playoff to 7 teams on each side and just had the 1 seed get a bye. And I think it's cool to have a little bit of a play-in thing. Like, I got the Hawks Hornets game pulled up right now next to me, and I think it's cool the fact that a 10 seed has the chance to get into the playoffs. But here's my contingency on it is if you go and look at the East, 1 through 10, every team has an above 500 record in the East, right? Like the Hornets went 43-39.
They were
And
soft.
then after, the 11 through the 15 seed in the East,
They're bad.
all of them have losing records. And so I think if you go out and you hustle for 82 games and you have an above 500 record, that makes sense. But then you look at the West and it's like the 10 seed is the Spurs and they're 34-48 this season. Like, what on earth are they doing trying to get a chance to get into the playoffs? So I think you could do some tweaking with that because, in the East, it's like, man, all 10 teams have a winning record for the regular season. But then it's just kind of, it almost seems like nonsensical in the West, having these teams that are 14 games, 12, 10 games below 500 playing to get into the playoffs. That was the big knock on the East 8-9 years ago was they always talked about it's just the Heat and the Bulls and the Celtics. And you go to the 8 seed and it's the Charlotte Bobcats, with a losing record. I remember that was a big deal is the fact that the East, the West is such a gauntlet to get to the finals. And the East is all these paper mache houses. And so like I kind of stick with that. It's like, man, if you didn't play during the regular season, like, I don't know. Cause like, think about it. Am I still up? I just had
we still
there we
got
go. Okay. I just had a notification pull me away. But that's my thing is if you're not going to go out there and hustle for a spot in the regular season, why on earth should you be in the play-in?
That's true. I mean, yeah, that's a fair. It is a fair point. And with the play-in, you're always going to have 1 or 2 teams that don't have a great record. So, okay, I want to move on because we're talking about the play-in, and we saw last night that the play-in means something to some of these teams. And the Timberwolves last night had a big celebration making the playoffs. It was a big celebration because the Timberwolves are probably one of the worst franchises in pro sports. And as a Jets fan, I sympathize with the Timberwolves. Like, if the Jets make the playoffs, you best believe I'm going to be celebrating like that. I don't care if we lose by 40 in the first round, the first game. So, I mean, it's a big deal. And Pat Bev was celebrating, and I know Pat Bev's got his history, and I'm not a huge Pat Bev guy either, but the guy plays with some passion, and he beat his old team, the Clippers, to get to the playoffs. So it's a big deal.
Yes.
And then, we had guys like LeBron and Kuzma on Twitter last night making fun of him. Like, you guys couldn't even make the play-in game. So, Cut, I'll start with you. I'll get your thoughts on, everyone kind of clowning the Timberwolves last night, and is that warranted, or do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I thought it was awesome. Like you just said, the Timberwolves have gone through so much. They've been horrible my entire life.
Yeah.
Even with Kevin Garnett, they didn't do anything.
Nothing.
I mean, they even prime K-Love years, they were still terrible. So I thought it was awesome for them. Now, I mean, jumping up on the dang,
Might be a little much,
the
but
scoreboard deal like Kobe Bryant winning the championship, that might be a little stretch. But I thought it was cool how they were celebrating, and they got a good young team, and Pat Bev's fit in that club nice. And, I don't know how far they'll end up going, but I think that Grizzlies Timberwolves series is going to be pretty good.
But
I think to knock the Timberwolves is just poor and doesn't make any sense. If you really are a sports fan, you understand why they were celebrating, so I loved it, and good for them for winning.
And, we get that.
I got a back cut.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I got a back cut, dude. It kind of feels like making fun of the overweight kid at the gym, because he's like trying and he's lost 20 pounds, but he's not like super ripped yet. So like, you're still kind of like poking fun at him, right? Like the Timberwolves, the last time they made the playoffs was 2018. And before that, it was 2004.
Long
like
time.
If you go back, like Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio, all those super solid teams never made the playoffs. Believe it or not, dude, never. And that's hard to think about because now Kevin Love, is an NBA champion with the Cavs and Braun and Kyrie and all those guys. But you got Anthony Edwards, rookie, his first season. I bet he's stoked to go to the playoffs. Like the Timberwolves haven't sniffed a playoff berth, since, my God, I mean, it's been almost 20 years besides, the 1 year back in 2018. And so I think the Timberwolves, I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome. I think, when people are down and they finally have success, I think you should let them celebrate however they want.
Yeah, no, I agree. Dylan, I want to get your thoughts on what happened last night. Because it was a pretty big deal on Twitter. A lot of people reacting, and they were getting kind of drugged through the mud.
I loved it. I think that's another fun part of the play-in game.
Right.
Like, we would not have gotten that big a reaction if it was them playing the Grizzlies. I'm sure
Right.
we'll get into it later, but I think that'll be a closer series than most people think. But I think a lot of times today, people are saying that these athletes are making millions of dollars every year. Why should they care if they make the playoffs? Because they're getting paid either way. And yesterday was a great example of these athletes still do care about
Yeah.
winning games.
And it's good to see. I mean, that's why we like March Madness. When we see the 8 seed beat the 9 seed in the first round, they go nuts because they get to play.
Right.
Their season gets to continue. They get to keep playing basketball, which is what we want to see. And to see that emotion, I think it's great. I don't really know why everyone just was clowning them for it. I mean, it's especially for the Timberwolves, man. That's a whole nother deal with them because they've been so bad for so long. I mean, Kevin Garnett's one of the best players ever, and they could not win with him. And they've been down in the dumps. And like I said, as a fan that likes an awful franchise, I sympathize with the Timberwolves. I thought that was cool.
Think
agree.
about this. I mean, at least personally, I don't really care to watch the NBA a lot because it just never looks like the guys care, right? Like we watch them play. The lack of effort is just mind blowing to me. So how can we sit there and criticize them for not caring enough and then also turn around and criticize them for caring so much they're going to celebrate like they just won the championship when they get in the playoffs? That's ridiculous. I think it's awesome that those guys cared enough to over celebrate by winning a play-in game. I think it's incredible. And another thing, every team kind of has their own expectations and their own goals. Who's to say that the Timberwolves should not celebrate like this? They're not the Lakers, like maybe not this year's Lakers, but they're not like they don't have the history of the Lakers. If we'd have seen LeBron James get up there and do that, it'd be a little weird, right? You'd be like, why are you celebrating like that? But for the Timberwolves, this means something. Maybe this is what they wanted. If we get into a full series in the playoffs, this is a good season. And so maybe last night was them realizing a goal. So who are we to sit there and criticize that? I think it was great.
Well, and I think people need to remember this is not a one night celebration, right? Like these guys have been playing 82 games since October. Like we're going on 6 months of them like believing that they want to make the playoffs, trusting in each other, having each other's back, encouraging, saying, hey, remember, we're trying to make the playoffs. Like this is 6 months in the making. And then for, them to go out there and actually do it. And on top of that, Pat Bev beat his old team to get in. Like people need to realize like this isn't they're stoked about winning one game. Like they've been trying to do this for 6 months. And when you finally accomplish something after 6 months of looking down the tunnel to see the light, it's a big deal. I mean, do you remember the first time you finally broke 80?
That was a great day when that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing, dude. It's just months and months and months of grinding on the range. You finally break 80 and someone could be like, man, it's just one round. But for you, it's like, dude, I finally freaking did it.
Yeah, I agree. And like Hunter said, the expectations are different. Like if that was the Lakers, it would be like, okay, but it's a Timberwolves. Like good for them. And I'll tell you all this, we'll get into it more later, kind of getting onto the games. That Timberwolves Grizzlies series is going to be awesome. So much young talent's going to be on the floor in that. So I want to here's what I want to do. I want to touch on some big picture NBA things first, and then we'll kind of dive into the playoff series. So I heard an interesting thing on the radio the other day. Guy was talking about the super team era in the NBA, and that's essentially what we grew up on. The Celtics kind of started it with KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, these guys joining up to play.
And Rondo.
And Rondo was already there. And then you got, LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. And then it just kind of has exploded from there. Like all the big guys want to play together. So now the super teams in the NBA, you've got LeBron, AD, and Westbrook. Clippers have, even though Kawhi's hurt, you got Kawhi and Paul George. And then who else missing? There's a couple other teams.
Well, the Nets.
The Nets, yeah. How could I forget the Nets? Durant, Kyrie, and then Ben Simmons if he ever comes back to play basketball. But if you look,
I would even say the 76ers
as well. Absolutely, James Harden and Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris. But if you look at the NBA standings right now, the 1 seed in the West, probably the best team in the NBA. They are the best team in the NBA. Phoenix Suns. they drafted that entire team with the exception of CP3 coming over. The Bucks, they drafted essentially that entire team except for Drew Holiday coming over. The Celtics, homegrown players, drafted Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So, and the Grizzlies, they drafted that entire team. So, in my opinion, it seems like these teams are going away from the super team era. They are building their teams through the draft now. It seems like the super team is almost dead. And you look at the Lakers, they had no chemistry all year. They built their team around those three players. I mean, it was those three players and then a bunch of older guys. And then the Nets, they have their big three, which was Harden, Durant, and then Kyrie. And they haven't had success this year either. So I want to get y'all's thoughts on that. Dillon, I'll start with you. Do you think the super team era is dead, or is it just kind of a rough patch and we'll see it come back?
I think eventually there's going to be some duo who's going to break the lead again. But for the most part, I think how many stars there are in the league, that's harder to leave the team that you're getting drafted to when there is a star already there. Like Ja Morant. Why would anybody on the Grizzlies want to leave Memphis when you have Ja there?
Right.
You know? And then it's not really a big market league anymore. Like anyone can watch anyone's games 82 times a year with League Pass. So you're not really going somewhere for more eyes like a New York or LA. So I'm excited about the no super team era, obviously. Like I said earlier, this is the first time in forever that I have no idea who's going to win the championship. I mean, I have a hunch, but
yeah,
I'm not like, oh, it's the Heat. Oh, it's the Warriors, you know?
It could be 7 teams, and I'd be like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And we can list them out later, but it's just the league has kind of spaced itself out to where these teams have built their team through the draft again, like I guess it used to be, which I think is cool. We had the super era. That was fun. Ratings were good. The Cavs Warriors, their dynasty where they played in the finals, we'll probably never forget that. It was a wild time in basketball. But I think it's going to be a fun time now. We have 7 teams that make the playoffs, and if any of them win, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that. They had a great year. So I think it's good for the league, and it'll be fun to watch. Cud, what do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I think it now looking at the way the league is and all these teams that are in the playoffs, minus, 1 or 2 teams, it seems like these franchises really bought into that 3 or 4 year process of, you know what, hey, we got some good players, but, obviously we're not where we want to be. But, all the teams in the playoffs right now, they pick up those 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th guys, in free agency and put those glue pieces into the roster. I mean, like right now, the Suns were already pretty darn good. You throw in a Hall of Famer running the point guard, you pick up Jay Crowder and those guys on the bench. That's all you need, So, I really like it the way it is now. Granted, you're going to have your superstar in free agency go get $40 million to go play for whoever, and he went to high school with some guy on the other team. That stuff's going to happen. But as far as your Chris Bosh and your LeBron James saying, "Hey, we're going to Miami together" out of nowhere, I think that is gonna. I think it's at least slowed down to where we're not going to see it as much as we used to. But yeah, I like it a lot more that way. And you can see where are those super teams right now? Nowhere.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
Yeah, and Brooklyn made the playoffs, but they're not going to win the championship. I don't think so. At least the competition they're going to have to go against, I don't think they can win it.
That was a lot of confidence to say that. Cold takes exposed. Here we go.
I was about to say that is a bold statement, Cud.
Hold your tongue on the Nets. We'll get into that in very heavy discussion in a second. But no, I agree. And Dillon made a good point. Is like it's who wants to leave Ja Morant, and these players that leave, they're going to want to go play with Devin Booker or Ja Morant or Jason Tatum. There's so many guys spread out across the league now, to where there's 10 superstars like Luka Doncic, another guy. I want to go play with him or him or him. So the league has kind of spaced itself out again. And I think it's really good. So one other big topic that I heard is the NBA regular season.
Can I say something real quick?
Close it out for me.
I was going to say, I think the super team era is coming to a close for a handful of reasons. Number one is I think the rule changes and the style of play changes are making a difference. Like you think about those big super team eras, It was all about who can we get to just go overpower another team. Like LeBron, Bosh, D Wade, big, right? KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, big, just overpower. And now with rule changes, with fouls being more common, with the 3-ball being a lot more frequent, you have teams that may not be as talented, but they get hot, go 5 of 6, 6 of 7 from 3, in a quarter, and all of a sudden they're, right back in the game. So you can't overpower teams like you used to. Number 2 is, like you said, I think there's more stars, right? So even if you do get 3 guys that are just ballers, you have to go play against 1 star and a bunch of like solid guys every night. So once again, you can't just overpower people and weaker teams all throughout the playoffs. And so I think a lot of it comes to the fact that there's just a massive increase in quality of player that's in the league now.
Yep.
Well,
No,
I want to say something real quick. I think we should tap the brakes on the whole super team is dead thing, basically, just for a little bit. I
don't think
injury-
it's dead. I think it's dying. I think it's in
Well,
its
think
I think
about the injuries.
I think its chapter is coming to a close.
Well, let's think about if you take away the big injuries that were this year. I mean, with a healthy Anthony Davis for the whole season, does that Lakers team look different? Or a healthy Kawhi Leonard for a full
Yes.
season, or healthy Kevin
Kawhi
Durant?
Leonard,
Yes.
We probably wouldn't be having this conversation had KD played 82 games or Kawhi played 82 games, because those regular season records would look much, much different than they did. So I do see what you're saying, and it is coming to a close, but I don't want to just put the nail in the coffin yet, because like I said, with the healthy Kawhi, that Clippers team is a lot different, and we're not having the same conversation.
This is kind of the first year we're seeing it, and it
Yeah.
may be a bit of
Yeah,
an
yeah.
overreaction to say it's dead, but I think it's personally, I
Well,
think it's
of all those teams you listed, every one of them had a massive injury problem. So it's not like there was one healthy super team that just flamed out. So I don't want to just go all in on like we're in a new era until I see it for maybe another year or two.
Yep. Nope. That's a fair point. And I will add this though, and then we need to move on from this. When you build a super team like that, and then you put like the Lakers, prime example, their super team was around those 3 guys.
Yep.
And if one of those guys goes down, you are screwed because you have
It's a
nobody
risk.
around them because they traded everyone. And I guess teams are kind of realizing, hey, this is not really working anymore. So that's just kind of what I think. But I want to move on to one other thing. And Hunter, I know you have some very good, very strong thoughts on this. So I'll let you start with this. The NBA in the regular season, obviously I've said it a million times, I'll still watch it because I have nothing better to do. I'll watch anybody play anybody. But the common fan, if you turn on middle of the season on a Wednesday night and you got the Bucks playing the Hawks, and Giannis is out with resting a sore knee or whatever, and Trae Young's not playing, and now we have all these G League guys. I could probably tell you a few guys on the floor, but the common fan is not like the Blazers had a national televised game the other day, and their entire team is out. They are a legitimate G League team playing right now. Nobody really wants to watch that. So I ask you, is the NBA these guys resting and these guys not playing because they're essentially tanking? They don't want these big name guys playing. Just get him healthy for next year, whatever. We'll lose these last 20 games, whatever happens. Is it a problem? And if it is a problem, should they just shorten the regular season? What do you think, Hunter?
Yeah. So what's happening is teams are telling us that the balance is off between the amount of teams that get in the postseason and the amount of regular season games that there are. And I'm going to use Major League Baseball and the NFL to compare. So in the NFL, you have 14 teams now, which I still think is too many, get into the postseason, and there are 17 regular season games. If Dak Prescott misses 2 games, the sky is falling for the Dallas Cowboys. Like that severely jeopardizes the Cowboys' chances of getting in the postseason. And you contrast that with Major League Baseball. And I went to a Ranger game last year. I only went to one. And Joey Gallo didn't play. He was resting, healthy. He was resting. And I didn't think anything of it. Oh, yeah, it's just baseball. And so the NBA is telling us, hey, there are too many regular season games, and you're letting 20 teams in the postseason. Yeah, I don't have to go out there and play 82 games to get the result that I want at the end of the season. We'd be better off just resting up and making sure we're 100% healthy. And I mean, honestly, I don't really think that that's too terrible. I'd prefer shortening the season. Personally, I would rather the games matter. I would rather personally, if I had it my own way, you just shrink the amount of teams that make the postseason. But then maybe the having that many teams make the postseason helps with tanking and all that kind of stuff. So I get it. I'd rather shrink the regular season and make those games matter. But man, I mean, people still go to baseball games. I mean, when you go to a baseball game and y'all are going on Saturday, who's pitching? Hearn
against Syndergaard.
Gray's our best pitcher. You're not going to see Gray. Are you losing sleep? I mean, you're not.
That's a little bit different scenario, though.
Why? Just because we're used to it. Only because we're used to it.
But that's a pitcher.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just what you get. Like if I live in Denver and the Bucks are coming to town, hey, I want to go see Giannis. It's the only time he's coming here, and he's not going to play because he's hurt. That's a little bit of a different ballgame. And I think that's where you're running into a problem. And I think you got to shorten the season. I'll let you.
I agree.
Talk about
Look,
it.
I agree with you. I think the NBA either needs to shorten the season, or fans just need to get on board with the fact that these guys are not playing 82 games.
No,
that era
no.
is over.
Yeah.
It's over. So they're either going to shorten the season themselves by only playing their starters 65 games and then run out G League squads for the other 17, or the league is going to have to step in and say, hey, we're going to shorten this to 65 games.
Because the last week of the NBA was completely unwatchable because hardly any of the games mattered.
And think about this. Think about how the effort would change throughout the season if 4 teams in each conference made the playoffs. Just go super crazy.
But see, if you do that, though, you're going to have a tanking disaster.
No, I'm not. This would never happen, but just thought experiment with me. How much more effort will we see from game 1 to game 82 if only 8 teams out of 30 made the playoffs? It'd be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Every single game would matter. That would get guys with a sore pinky toe to get out there and play, you know, and so that would solve the problem. Or also, if there were only 35 regular season games, that would get guys out there and playing. Yeah. So you can do it both ways.
Dillon, I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think it's a problem at all? Do you think they should shorten the season? What do you think?
I do think it's a problem. I honestly didn't know how many stars missed so many games until I was picking my All-NBA teams the other day. Mm-hmm. Like, Jokic had a good season. He missed maybe, I think, 8 to 10 games, and he was blowing other stars out in terms of how many games they played.
Wow.
And usually, I feel like 8 to 10 is like guys used to play all 82 games. They might have missed a game or two, but I think a couple ways to solve this could be get rid of the preseason and add start games a month earlier, get rid of back-to-backs completely, cut out. I saw the Nuggets had a 9-day stretch where they played 6 games this year. Like, that's insane. I know the Spurs usually have a pretty insane road trip when the San Antonio Rodeo is going on. And my other solution, I heard this yesterday, haven't looked too much into it, but I initially thought it was a great idea. Instead of lowering the amount of teams in the playoffs, just if you're the number 1 seed, you pick who you play. If you're the number 2 seed, you pick who you play. Because, like, clearly, again, we're going to get into it, I know, but Celtics, Nets, teams were dodging that number 2 seed. I don't think the Celtics were, but teams definitely were. If you're the number 2 seed and you say, hey, I'd rather play this team instead, I think that helps the problem.
So how many teams in this world get to pick who they play?
I would think just the top 4. So if you're the 1 seed, you pick the 8 seed. If you're the 2 seed, you pick not the Nets,
I saw that too, and I thought that was fascinating. I think that'd be kind of cool.
I'm confused. Explain to me, an idiot. Explain to me why that would help get guys to play during the regular season.
Well, as far as that, I would say would be towards the end of the year, like with your seeds. Like the Bucks didn't play the last game of the year; they didn't play anybody, and they sat all their guys because they didn't want to play Brooklyn.
So that's more of a solution to the seed tanking.
Pretty good effect at about the last 10 to 15 games. Just the seeds are starting to kind of get balanced because Boston didn't want the 4 seed because we would have to go to Toronto, and it's rumored that Jaylen Brown and Al Horford aren't vaccinated. So they wouldn't be able to play in Toronto. So that'd be a disaster. So everyone's just trying to kind of get where they want to be. And it's just like, dude, just play in What we want to see is just play, win, and wherever you fall is where it is. That's how we grew up watching basketball in any sports. This is
Here's
all
an
new.
idea.
This didn't used to happen.
Here's an idea. So the World Cup puts people into pots, right? So there are 4 pots, and you just draw. So what if there were 2 pots, the top 4 seeds and the bottom 4 seeds, and you drew a team from each pot? So you've got, maybe you could have, maybe it would end up being the Celtics Nets, but maybe not. And it's just, you just pot 1, pot 2. Here's the matchup. And that would solve this whole seed tanking idea.
I think that's another great idea. I'd love to see that.
I like that.
I
like that.
I know I'm a big fan of Adam Silver. I think he's a big players guy, but I think he does great things for the NBA. So I think something is going to change. I don't know what is going to change, but I think he's come out and said, it's like, hey, the stars aren't playing every night. Like, we've got so many guys out. Like, there was a stat of a certain amount of games that each guy has missed. And I was looking at Dillon's all NBA team that he tweeted out, and I was trying to put mine together, and I was like, well, John Moran, he's no doubt first all NBA first team, but he was out for several games and he was hurt. But guys, and I don't want guys to rush back injuries, don't get me wrong, get healthy and play. But John Morant, if he they rest up and he's going to miss, okay, I got these extra 5 games. We're setting the 4 seed. I don't really need to play whatever. I'm just going to,
How many times do you see NFL guys play through an injury in the regular season because they have to be there? They have to play.
And I'm not advocating for that because I don't want guys to just destroy themselves. But yeah, the meaning of the game matters more in the NFL. They're like, hey, this is what I got to do. And
a Big Ben at 75% means more to the Steelers than their backup. Like, they need a 75% Big Ben, and that is not a thing in the NBA. Unless you're 100%, you're not playing. And I mean, you kind of need to have a little bit of playing through injuries every now and then. If you don't, it doesn't matter to you.
One more thing I want to talk about, and then we got to talk Celtics Nets because I'm foaming at the mouth to talk to Jaeger about this. So one thing that I'd forgotten about is the tanking issue in the NBA it's baseball's the same way too. Either like when the NBA season started, there's 8 teams. Okay, we know they're going to be horrible, like the MLB as well. John Wall for the Rockets, and this is not on him, got paid $40 million to literally do nothing. He did not play 1 game. I guess because the Rockets didn't want him to play and they kind of wanted the seed. Dillon helped me out here on why they did that, but that's a problem to me. Like, and that's not John Wall's fault. I think that's more management. Be like, hey, be a mentor or whatever, but we're kind of going with the young guys and kind of tanking a little bit here. So, I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. At the point where John Wall said he wants to play,
Yeah,
you need to play him at that point.
right.
That's wild to me. But also, if you're the Rockets and you still believe John Wall is a capable player with injury-prone problems, would it help to rest him and hope for someone like the Lakers try to trade Russell Westbrook for him? Like they almost did at the deadline instead of him getting hurt. But again, I don't agree with that. I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes, in their mindset, because I didn't get that one at all.
I had forgotten all about it because he was a healthy scratch. It's not like he had a blown out Achilles or anything. So I thought that was wild. And I know they had talked about wanting to trade Wall for Westbrook, and that kind of fell through, but he didn't play at all. And John Wall still got some left in the tank. He could help some teams. So that's another thing. I think, the tanking in the NBA, which it kind of worked out for Philly. They kind of started the whole thing, and they got Joel Embiid and they got Simmons for a couple of years. So I don't really have an answer for the tanking. I don't really know how you get – the NBA is the best system is the lottery, how they do it. They draw the teams.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a comment after Shattuck's done.
The ignorant NBA fan here. The lottery isn't really that much of a lottery, right? I mean, it still significantly favors the team with the worst record.
Not the 3. 1, 2, and 3 now is even odds.
Okay. So it still incentivizes teams to be in the bottom 3 of the league. Why? Right. Just explain to me, like I'm 5, why we don't take every team that misses the playoffs, all 10 of them, all 30% of the dadgum league that misses the playoffs, put them in a bucket and draw for draft order. Why does that not happen? That would solve tanking.
I'll let you take that one, Dillon, as the NBA guy.
I know that's how they intended for it to start. The original 85 lottery was just like that. I don't have any clue why they don't anymore.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Now I get it. I'm dumb. Like I understand that.
All
But to me, it doesn't make any sense.
I think you could at least, because they only pit the top, I think, 4 teams too. Pick all 14 lottery teams,
Yeah.
and hope that one of the 25% number 1 worst team falls to like the 12.
Yeah.
Because they're guaranteed at worst the number 5 pick.
Yeah.
Like, you can deal with that.
You're still incentivizing
Right.
tanking. I mean, you can't call that an anti-tanking measure when you're rewarding the 3 worst records. What are we doing? And that's stupid.
The tanking gets real bad at the end of the year when they know they're out of the playoff race, which they probably weren't gunning for at the beginning anyway.
Mhm.
Like I talked about Portland. I mean, they're straight G League guys on the floor. Good for those guys. Like my guy Keon Johnson from Tennessee was playing. But I mean, literally a G League basketball team. It was crazy. And they lose by 50 every night. So, okay, it's time to move on.
Sorry. Well, Jaeger had
No,
something.
I
Sorry,
have-
I'll shut up.
Go ahead, Jaeger.
I've
My
talked
bad.
way
Yeah,
too
you gotta
much.
shut
I actually have a really good idea when it comes to tanking, because tanking has probably been like the thing that gets under my skin the most out of anything that goes on in the NBA. And like right now, I'm personally experiencing, as a Rockets fan, we had the number 2 overall pick last year, took Jalen Green, and now we're terrible.
You're a Rockets fan?
No, you're not.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yes,
What?
I am.
He's
Yeah.
not as Rockets fan as you are a Mavs fan, Hunter.
Okay.
I love every Houston team.
The Texans?
I love the Astros. The Texans, my God, they're terrible, so I'd never talk about them. But
You should
Yeah.
pick a team. Pick the Texans.
What's your point, Yeg? What's your thought
anyway, the point is with tanking is I had a couple ideas.
Okay.
Is these teams go real hard for the top. I think it's like 3 or 4 picks, or the lottery picks or something like that, right? I think there should be a minimum wins requirement for the following season, or else you lose your draft pick the next season.
Like
so, for example, if
you're talking about like in a skins game where if you make a birdie and win the skin, you got to make a par in the next hole to validate it. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think if you have the number 1 overall pick and you win 18 games the next season, you should lose your draft pick for that upcoming draft. I think for 1, 2, 3, if you're the lottery picks, you should have to win minimum 32 games or like 35 games, right? It forces teams to take what they have been given and actually do something with it, like be quality and like make sense of what they do. The other idea I had is I'm pretty sure in the Premier League, the team that comes in very last gets, I think, like downgraded.
They get relegated. Yeah, the bottom 3 teams get
down
relegated.
into like the G League of the Premier League, right? And then the winner of the G League of the Premier League gets put up in the Premier League. So it's like a big deal to win the B League of the Premier League, because then you get in, you have a lot more, you have a lot more eyes on you, a lot more attention, a lot more traffic. You make so much money by getting out of the G League, right? I honestly think if you're one of these terrible teams, that if you do that for 4 or 5 straight years and you lose all your picks, you should be forced to like sell the team. Because I'm telling you, right now, there would be a dozen people ready to buy the franchise and put the Supersonics back in the league. Right? You know what I'm saying?
No,
absolutely.
I think that's a
Like-
fair point. I don't know. You would have to have
Like
like
the
ahead.
Orlando Magic.
bless
The
their heart.
Orlando Magic, my God, like 60% of the population in Orlando is 65 plus. They're not lining up to go watch who knows what Markelle Fultz forget how to shoot a basketball.
My guy
right?
Jalen Suggs is there.
But you sell that team over to Seattle. Seattle loves sports. They would love to have the Supersonics back in the building. And so I think, something like that, where you should be like forced to relocate the team or do something, right? Because at the end of the day, I've said it a million times. It's the same thing with NFL teams taking a quarterback number 1 overall. You want to really screw your franchise, take a kid with a lot of momentum and put him somewhere where he's going to lose. It's going to kill his confidence. It's going to kill his desire. You've seen it happen to Sam Darnold. You've seen it happen to 12 quarterbacks that went through Cleveland over all those years. You're just going to kill the sport.
Yeah, I mean, something's got to be on about tanking. That's for sure. And what they'll do, I don't know, but I know they're Adam Silver's thinking of things to do. The NBA is going to continually change. That I believe. Okay, so let's talk a little playoffs. It is going to be a wild next couple weeks in the NBA because, like we've talked about a few times, there's so many teams at the top and there's so many good players now. So we talked about the Celtics drawing the Nets in the first round. My Celtics. Everybody is counting the Celtics. Every time I turn on the TV, can the Celtics hang with the Nets? Can Tatum and Brown carry the Celtics? We're the number 2 seed. We're the hot. The Celtics are the hottest. I'm the host of the show. I got to stop being biased. Not we. The Celtics. The Celtics are the hottest team in the NBA. I mean,
you're allowed to be biased, Cam, for your teams.
Okay, I can be biased. But I mean, the Nets are the 7th seed for a reason. I know Kyrie had his whole vaccination deal. KD's hurt, whatever. They haven't been together. Ben Simmons, is he going to play? Who knows? I'm not scared of the Nets as a Celtics fan. I'm not. KD's great. KD's going to get his points.
You should be.
I'm not at all. I mean, Jeff, the Nets played last night, and they beat the Cavs by 7, and the Cavs played bad last night. They did not play well. They shot the ball poorly. I like that Cavs team, and I'm not knocking the Cavs, but that was not a good outing by Cleveland, and they were a couple possessions away from beating Brooklyn last night. And KD was Kyrie was on fire. So, and let me tell you this, Ye, the Nets might be the worst defensive team I've ever seen, only behind this year's Lakers. They have to score 130 points a game to win. The Celtics are the best defensive team in the league. No, not when you match up against the best defensive team in the league.
Oh, son.
Okay, so let's just go across the board, and then we won't do this for every game, but I want to get into this game because nerves were touched in the group message earlier today. We're talking Nets Celtics. So Hunter, I'll start with you. Nets Celtics, who wins the series?
I think it's a coin flip. I really do. I think it's as even of a 2-7 matchup as it will ever exist for all of eternity. The issue that I was having with you in the group message earlier is you were just hand waving at the Nets. Like, I'm not worried about those Nets. They have the best score of the basketball to ever breathe oxygen on that team. You have to be at least somewhat afraid of them. Like, so just don't hand wave at the Nets like that. Now, if I had to pick, I still think the Celtics are going to win the series. I really do. Yeah. But it's really close, and you can't sit there with a straight face and tell me you're not a little bit afraid of Kevin Durant.
Listen, I'll say this. Obviously, the Nets are a tougher matchup than the Bulls and the Cavs and whoever else is making the playoffs in the East, and then Toronto. Obviously, I'm acknowledging that fact. But like I said in the GM, if we can't get past this Brooklyn Nets team, then this Celtics team, they're not championship material anyway. Then they don't deserve to make a run. We didn't dodge the Nets. They played their guys the last game. They're not scared of them. The Celtics match up really well with the Nets.
Will you regret not dodging the Nets if you'll lose the series?
No, not because like I said, if we can't beat the Nets, then we don't deserve it anyway. You know, that's where I'm at this point. I mean, obviously, if we played the Bulls, who are ice cold right now, it'd be a much easier series. But I think Boston can beat the Nets. And plus, the Celtics have a beef with Kyrie, so that makes it even better theater. And if we can beat them in 5, I'd love that. So, Celtics Nets, who you got in the series?
I got the Celtics, no question. I think, honestly, KD's unreal. But, Jeff, that's not a reason to say the Nets are going to win. One guy's not going to do it.
Just ask LeBron James and the Lakers.
They score 130 points a game and win by a bucket. That's not going to win you a championship, and it's dang sure not going to win a series against a pretty darn good Celtics team.
That's right.
So, and not only that, the Nets have 0 postgame. Robert Williams, I just read an article saying that he's very likely to play in this series. So you have him and Al Horford and Daniel Theis, who's playing great, against Andre Drummond and Claxton. Relax. I mean, that's just not going to work. And Jaylen Brown is a great defender and also a great scorer. Then you're forgetting about the glue of the whole team Marcus Smart.
That's right, Cud.
So no, I think it's going to be a great series, but I think the Celtics win this in I dare say 5 games. I mean 5 or 6 games. I'm capping it there. I mean, yeah. I mean the Nets are, they have 2 of the best players I've seen in my lifetime, but I just don't see him. Boston's a more complete team, so I got the Celtics.
I agree, Cud. My prediction is 5. I could definitely see it going 6. KD could drop 55 in one game, but they're so bad defensively to me. Go ahead, Hunter.
I want to refine my take just a little bit. If the series ends in 5, the Celtics win. The Celtics won't lose in 5, but the longer the series goes, the more I like the Nets. Because I think if the Nets show up enough to make it a 7-game series, I think the Nets win it. Like they take the series. But I'm still sticking with the Celtics. I don't think the Celtics are going to go lying down in 5 games. But man, the deeper the series goes, the Nets intrigue me a little bit more.
Dillon, I want to go to you next, and then I'll let Jeff have the last word on Celtics Nets.
The Nets really are an incredible team. Like I said, Kyrie and Kevin Durant are 2 of the best scorers to ever play the game.
Yep.
But when I was watching yesterday, like you said, I don't know what the final score was. It came down to the last couple minutes, and the Cavs are missing their rim protector. They could have really used Jared Allen yesterday, which is another reason. I don't remember who said it. If Robert Williams is playing tomorrow or whenever they play, if Robert Williams is playing, I think Boston wins in 6. But even without him, you have Al Horford. You still have Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown darting on the perimeter, darting those 3 guys. You have different guys you can throw at each person and let the role players beat you because they're not going to.
No.
So I think it'll be close. Kevin Durant and Kyrie are good enough they can carry them 6 or 7 games, but I do have Boston.
Great pick, Dillon. I knew I could count on you for this take. Okay, yeah, you have the floor, my friend.
You guys are all so blind and foolish and emotionally charged in your takes.
Not me, never.
Listen, first off, let's talk about some facts, right? When Kyrie went to Boston, they had all the same guys that they have now. And who was the best player on that team? It was Kyrie Irving. And that is facts.
When he was in Boston?
Now, Kyrie Irving?
Yeah, what did you say when he was in Boston?
Yes.
He
was the best player. He was 1A and Jason Tatum was 1B, right?
Tatum was 19 years old, but can carry on.
The point being is Kyrie was the best player on that team. He knows knows those guys, right?
Sure.
Secondly, heaven have mercy. I don't even need to say this, but there is this tall 7-foot guy that went to the University of Texas playing for Brooklyn named Shattuck. Remind me what his name is.
Yeah, his name is Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant, bro. The Durantula, the Slim Reaper, whatever you want to call him, KD 357. My dude, have you ever watched Kevin Durant? It is the first time since watching Derrick Rose that I watch a player and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, wow. I feel like a 75-year-old watching youngins and being like, man, these kids can jump. These kids can play. When I watched Derrick Rose back in his MVP season, he would fly over people and just fly by them. He was so quick. And I was just like, my gosh. And now I watch KD, and every time he has the ball, I watch him pull up from mid-range, and I'm like, that's a bucket. I watch him pull up from the baseline. That's a bucket. That's 2 points. I watch him drive. I don't watch Jason Tatum because I don't go, wow, Jason Tatum.
You ever seen Jaylen Brown play basketball?
Listen, and I'll hit you with this, listen to this. We've said for a long time, because all of us here, the chat is not only for sports takes, we also gamble very little money.
Responsibly.
For fun. It's recreational.
Responsibly.
Right? And we've said somehow Vegas knows. We don't know how they know, but they know.
Yeah, and guess who's an underdog in this
Celtics,
series?
the Celtics, The Celtics Nets are the closest to even of
But-
any series. The Celtics are minus 145
Who's the
and the
underdog?
Nets are plus 125.
Vegas knows, Yag, like you said.
I
Vegas
would
knows.
I would be very surprised
Yag,
if
just
the
hear me out.
Nets weren't the favorite, if they had the 4 home games instead of the Celtics. I
Well,
think the Celtics might be the favorite just strictly because they're getting 4 home games out of the 7
one
game
more game in the
series,
regular season
and for
against-
no other reason.
Hear me out. How many people are running to Vegas right now and taking the Nets at plus money to win that series? Quite a bit.
I already did.
Yeah, and you just took your money and you just set it on fire, is what you did. That's wasteful.
I
I
I
agree
beg
with
to
what
differ.
you're saying about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is probably the best player in the NBA. He's unreal.
Probably.
But the
It's
Nets,
not. There's no probably about it.
that guy that plays for the Bucks, that's 7 foot tall, is pretty darn good too. But
If it were between, if I had to take KD or Giannis,
it's a coin flip for
shit,
me.
you're right.
KD
That's
getting old,
tough.
man.
But if you need a bucket, I'm talking about you need someone to go down and score you a bucket. I'm taking Kevin Durant.
I mean, yeah, that's fine.
If you need someone to get a stop, get a block, like just shut someone down, I'm taking Giannis.
But my point with this series is, Yag, is like Cud said, the Nets have no size and they have no bench and they play no defense. And we've talked on the pod about how the super team is kind of dying and these teams are spaced out now. And, it's more of like like these teams that are really good, they have chemistry. The Suns, the Bucks, the Celtics, they have chemistry. The Nets have no chemistry. And especially if they roll Ben Simmons out there for this series. I think
I'll
They're
tell you-
not going to roll Ben Simmons.
I'll tell
out.
you what.
that they might.
This series is going to define how we feel about the league. Because if the Nets win the series and they make a playoff run, all this talk about super team era being over is dead. If they can beat this Boston team with all the chemistry that you've talked about, the depth, the well-roundedness that this Boston team has, if the Nets come in there and win this series, then all of our hopes and dreams of parity in the NBA are dead.
All I'm saying is that I love the Nets to win this series. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can love them all you
But
want.
and
How
listen,
many games, Jake? How many games?
Yeah, how many games?
I'm taking the Nets in 6.
Not going to happen. You're telling me they're going to
And
win
here's the thing. Listen,
3 games in the row.
you want to talk about defense and this and that,
It's a
but
big
we've been
deal in the
talking
playoffs.
we've been talking this whole pod about how to make games matter more to NBA players. Let me tell you something. Playoff games matter to those guys.
Mhm.
You can just do a litmus test and look and see that guys are giving it twice as much effort every single playoff game than they are in the regular season.
It can matter all they want. The Nets physically cannot play defense. Kyrie is one of the worst defensive guards in the NBA. Kevin Durant's a good defender. Who else is playing defense? Telling me Bruce Brown's going to lock up Jaylen Brown?
And don't forget about Seth Curry.
Yeah, Seth Curry. What a great defender. he is.
That's who else I need to talk about. Y'all are disrespecting Seth Curry. He's going to get
not-
out there.
He's
That
not
guy
been
can
great for the
play.
Nets at all. He has been ice
I'm
cold.
telling you, bro. Listen, but there are people that show up when it matters, and Seth Curry's one of them.
You ever,
Cut.
like I said, you ever seen Jason Tatum play basketball? He's not bad.
Cut.
Okay.
You're over there rolling your eyes, making all kinds of facial expressions. Why don't you chime in and tell Jaeger what you're thinking?
Jaeger, all I've heard you say is KD's pretty good. That's pretty much what I've heard.
A lot more guys on that team, isn't that right, Cub?
It's unreal. You can't make a run with one guy. I mean, I just don't see. Like, yes, Seth Curry, I agree. When that trade happened,
Wasn't that the whole thing about Giannis with the Bucks? Is he was just the centerpiece and dragging them, and the rest of the team? They're like, how can you pay freaking what Chris Middleton? He's not an actual 2, and yet they won the championship.
the Milwaukee Bucks are miles better than the Brooklyn Nets from
Kevin
A to
Durant-
B. That's
Kevin
Wow.
Durant was
horrible.
almost
It's a horrible
single-handedly
player.
beating the Bucks last year too, though.
Dude, they have so many good players all the way down. Guys that give them their 5 points and 3 boards, and that's all they need. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets, just to me, they don't have enough pieces that are going to matter in the postseason. They just don't. And
They need
KD
Kevin Durant and
Kyrie
Kyrie Irving to play a 9 out of 10 game every single night. That's their
They're,
only chance.
they're both going to have 35 a night
Yep.
to maybe win.
Which those two can. They can do it,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's just
they're
not
very
likely.
capable. They're
That's the
very
thing.
capable. Yeah. I just don't see them being able to overpower that. I mean, and you're right, Jeff. I mean, it's postseason basketball. Those guys that are, might have Claxton and Bruce Brown or whatever, they're going to be playing balls to the wall as they should. But I'm going to take freaking Marcus Smart over Bruce Brown every year of my life. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And yes, I mean,
We'll
to
see.
me, you like
We'll
Brooklyn
see.
to win because of one guy. That's not enough.
It's gonna.
Okay.
I can't wait for the series to be over and we can really hash it out. Yake, I want you to watch this series though, so you can see how good Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are.
Yeah, and
Obviously,
you were just talking about how you haven't watched them all year. So how could you have an opinion on them?
He doesn't. He just loves KD.
Exactly.
I do love Kevin Durant. I'll
We
come out and say
know.
it.
We
I
look-
love
we
Kevin
see-
Durant.
Okay, so we are getting slaughtered on time. So we need to move on. So Dylan, I want to ask you this: what is another series? We've talked Celtics Nets, and we've talked a little Timberwolves Grizzlies. What's a series you're really looking forward to watching in the next few weeks? Because there's some pretty darn good ones.
I think Philadelphia and Toronto is going to surprise some people.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think Philadelphia lost a lot of depth for James Harden, who clearly does not look like Houston James Harden.
No.
And Toronto, Nick Nurse is one of my favorite coaches in the league.
Yeah.
He does weird stuff. It's going to be weird watching a 6'8" center guard Joel Embiid. I'll give him that. But if someone can figure it out, it's Nick Nurse.
Yeah,
So,
and the Sixers
I'm
also
looking
they're
very-
missing Tybal. Matisse Thybulle is going to be out for that series for Philly. So that's going to be I could see that going game 7 and going either way, especially if James Harden can't turn it around. I'll put my hand up right now. I was wrong about James Harden and Joel Embiid being paired together. That could
You hear that,
change
Cud?
the playoffs. But
I did
man,
hear that.
it has not been pretty over there.
Well, that's music to my ears right there, fellas.
I didn't say you're right about the Nets and Ben Simmons. He hasn't played a
No,
game.
Ben Simmons hadn't seen the floor yet, so we could both be wrong.
We can both wave the white flag on that one for now. So that's going to be interesting. And then like Dylan said, Raptors Sixers going to be really weird to see a 6'8" guy guard Embiid. Embiid's going to have to hang 35 a night, especially because they don't have any depth. Like you said, they got rid of all their depth to bring in Harden, who's not turned out too good. And that goes back to the whole super team thing. So anybody else got a series you're looking forward to? And then I want to absolutely crush the Lakers, and then we can move on to golf.
I have one. I'm actually very excited to watch are we just talking first round?
Just first round.
Yeah, I think the Jazz and the Mavericks are going to be a fun series to watch.
I hope Luka's healthy for that series, man.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a fun series to watch. And then who does Denver play first round?
Golden State.
Oh, that will be really good.
I think that might be a good.
Steph's
that'll
not
be a
back yet, is
good-
he?
I think will he be back for that
No,
series?
there was a report that came out and said he might not be ready for the first series. So I think that's going to be an interesting match to watch. Is those Western matchups of the Jazz and the Mavs and the Nuggets and the Warriors. I think that Nuggets Warriors matchup is going to get a lot more feisty than people realize, because Jokic is not afraid to push people around,
No.
and the Warriors will kind of like they don't have many bully guys down there.
Okay, I want to get one more thing in, then I'll go to the Lakers, and then we need to talk some golf. Dylan, I want to ask you this. I saw you give out your NBA first teams. Who is your MVP of the league? Because I am literally, I could flip a coin and it could be Giannis, Jokic, or Embiid to me, and I'm perfectly fine with any of them. So what do you think?
I think without a doubt, Jokic.
Jokic,
I think
without a doubt.
away favorite.
Really?
He leads. This Denver team is so bad. I
They
mean,
are.
without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter,
They are bad. Yeah.
he leads their team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, field goal percentage. Holy crap, that's never been done before. And when you look at advanced stats, it's even worse. Like, one interesting stat I wrote down earlier, his offensive box or no. His box plus minus. So how good he is on the court versus when they're off the court. He is plus 13.6. The next highest on the Nuggets is 0.
Wow.
Nobody else is even positive on the Nuggets.
He is the productivity on that team.
Exactly.
So if you took him off, they'd be the Orlando Magic right now without Jamal Murray and MPJ. I mean, they'd be that bad.
I heard one stat with him on the floor. They play similarly stat-wise to a 62-win team. So let's say the Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
When he's off the court, they are 3 games worse than the Houston Rockets.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay, so I'm on board then. Give me Joe because I know Embiid's throwing a fit about not getting the MVP. Giannis is like, I don't care. He's had a great year as well. But the media I've been seeing has been talking about like, I don't know about Jokic. You know, they're kind of, I don't know. So that's interesting.
I think Embiid, with a big personality, plays in Philly. They did a lot of games. It's hard to not say Embiid, especially because it's not like he's having a mediocre year.
No.
Any other year, he would be MVP. Same with Giannis. I also think Luka is having a great year. Any other year, I think he might be MVP. But Jokic was the MVP last year. He's only gotten better. I think he had Michael Porter for 1 game. He's had Jamal Murray for 0.
Yep.
Jokic is he's unbelievable.
It's the closest MVP race I've ever seen. Normally, we kind of have it
Yeah.
planned by now. Like when Westbrook had his triple doubles, we knew it was going to be him. LeBron season, we knew it was going to be him as well.
Harden was robbed that Westbrook year. We all know Westbrook was going to win it, but if you look at Harden's stats too and the impact he had on Houston,
I've seen that as well. A lot of people are like, man, Harden was robbed. And if you look, because weren't the Thunder like a 7 seed in the West that year? Like
they were horrible.
Yeah.
I think they played the Rockets first round.
They did. I
Wait,
remember.
did you just say they were horrible and they still made the playoffs? Huh,
Oh,
that's
here
interesting.
we go.
They were horrible.
Interesting.
Get that, Grinch. We want more basketball. We want more games, not less. Okay. One more thought on the NBA. We need to move on. The Lakers suck. What a failure of the season. You trade and listen, I like Russell Westbrook. I know y'all really don't. I like him. He's driving me away with how he's handling the media. He's talking. He pushed the blame everywhere else. That's a whole other deal. But the Lakers made this move. You trade KCP, Kuzma. You get rid of Montrezl Harrell to bring in Westbrook, to bring your super team to play with AD and LeBron. AD hasn't been healthy in 7 years. Has he played 40 games? Has he played half a season?
I
No.
doubt.
And then, so to add on to that, the Lakers bring in Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard. What's the guy's name from the Hawks? Kent Bazemore. All these guys in their 30s. This would have been the greatest team we've ever seen in 2012. God, we said it when the season started. I didn't think it'd be this bad. I don't want to say that. This team's not scaring anybody. They're old. Like all these guys are way past their Wayne Ellington. I mean, all these guys are way past their prime.
Didn't Rondo start the season on the Lakers
My
too?
man Rondo still got some left in the tank. They sent him out and got worse. And their 2 young guys they were counting on, Kendrick Nunn didn't play a game, and THT didn't have a very good year for the Lakers. So
Yeah.
I want to ask y'all this. Is this the biggest failure of a team we've ever seen? They were the odds-on favorite to win the NBA championship before the season started. The Nets were 2.
Yeah.
They didn't even make the play-in. No disrespect to y'all Spurs. They're in complete rebuild mode. Probably the youngest team in the NBA, if I had to guess. I mean, like Josh Primo's like 20. I don't even think he drink alcohol yet. Like these guys are super young on the Spurs. They're in rebuild mode. And the Lakers could not get past that. That's embarrassing to me if you're the Lakers. I know they had injuries. Hey, look, you have AD, him being hurt, that's just kind of what comes with the package. Like AD can't stay healthy. It's unfortunate because when he plays, he's a great player, but he can't put together a season. The Westbrook fit was a nightmare. I don't know if I didn't really see that coming. I thought he may fit in okay and handle the ball. It was a disaster. But I don't think Frank Vogel was at fault. They fired him. And I don't think you put all the fault on Westbrook either. Look, obviously LeBron probably had a lot to do with getting Westbrook there. This was your team you constructed. That's where the fall comes with me. AD can't stay on the floor. And this is the team LeBron got. Carmelo Anthony, another old guy he brought to the team. Love Carmelo. He's a Hall of Famer. But like we said, it's kind of a young guy's name now. Look at Luka. He's 24. Tatum, 24. Devin Booker's 25, 24, whatever. It's moving that way. So I want to ask y'all, is this the biggest failure we've ever seen? Now, Hunter, I'll start with you with the Lakers. I mean, this is an atrocity of a season for them.
Yeah. So listen to this. Right. So I watch a lot of college basketball, specifically Big 12, obviously, because I went to Baylor. And I watched Austin Reeves play a lot in college. And I liked watching him. You know, he's just smooth player, good with the ball. But I was shocked whenever they were talking about him going to the NBA. That man got meaningful minutes for the Lakers this year. And he was a above average college basketball player. That man was getting meaningful minutes for the Los Angeles Lakers, a team, like you said, was favored to win the NBA championship. And Austin Reeves was getting meaningful minutes. That is a joke.
Once he got those meaningful minutes, he was probably their best player.
Yes.
Take LeBron and those guys out. That's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
A little bit of an issue. A little bit?
Big issue.
Yeah.
Pitiful.
He had more heart and grit than the other 14 guys.
Oh, yeah.
That,
Well, what he lacks in talent, he makes up for in grit, let me tell you.
That's right.
Anthony Davis, yeah, we were hurt. You know, we'll run it back next year. So is everybody else in the league, man. The Nuggets, Jamal Murray hasn't played a game all year. MP, Michael Porter Jr. has been out. Jokic put that team on his back, and he's taken them to the playoffs. The Lakers couldn't do that because of the way they constructed their team. LeBron had injuries, AD had injuries, and these other guys were terrible, man.
Yeah.
And Frank Vogel.
When you get a team together of a bunch of guys who should be in a home, you're going to deal with injuries. That's just how it works.
33. It was the oldest in NBA history. So, Dylan, I want to get your thoughts on the Lakers. And do you think it was as big of a failure as I'm making it out to be, or am I being a little over dramatic?
No, it for sure was. My preseason, I do a preseason standings list too. And I ended up saying LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook are three great players. I don't know about the fit, but I think they can at least make it work. And I had them going to the finals. But I also was like, I could see this completely not working. I'd have never in a million years thought it would be this bad.
Either.
I mean, I thought Russell Westbrook could carry the load while the other two were gone. And even then, he couldn't. So it was a terribly constructed team. I don't think you should let agencies and star players pick teams. I think how much percent of that team was clutch sports, I wonder.
I'd say quite a bit, man. All those guys are LeBron guys too, like Carmelo and LeBron are buddies, Dwight, all those guys kind of same age.
Yeah. It felt like when you go to recess and you just get all your buddies that you sit with at lunch to come play, pick up basketball at recess.
And some players, I mean, LeBron's going to have a hand in it always. He's LeBron James. Like, man, like trading away KCP, Kuzma, Caruso, letting all those guys go. Those were like your role.
So bad.
And it's a disaster. So,
and not only that, look at all those guys they got rid of. They're flourishing everywhere else they're playing right now.
Caruso's
they're playing great.
Bulls.
Yeah.
So, Cud, let me ask you this. What do the Lakers do now? They're screwed, man. They have no picks till like 2027.
If the Lakers are smart, they trade LeBron. They get rid of LeBron. You cut Anthony Davis because he
can't cut Anthony Davis.
Dude, I'm not kidding. You literally, I'm starting with 0 players and getting 15 new guys. I mean, to
LSU basketball right there.
To say this last year was a failure is an understatement. They have 5 first ballot Hall of Famers and they couldn't get past. I do love my Spurs to death, but we were in complete rebuild mode, and they didn't win 35 games.
That's bad.
I mean, that is a major problem. And when you have like Austin Reeves balling out every night, that's another major problem. So, I mean, the Lakers, honestly.
Poor Austin Reeves. I hope he doesn't listen to this pod. He's catching some major strays.
But, I mean, if I'm the Lakers, I'm talking from not just the roster. I'm talking start over, new GM. You trade LeBron. You trade Westbrook. I don't know. I would cut Anthony Davis. He's worthless. And then you literally just restart, except Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves.
But I mean, I just don't understand. All these guys are so old. There's nothing and honestly, LeBron did say, I think they asked him like what was his biggest regret is that they never got to play together. and he had a kind of an excuse. You know, they were never on the floor for like even a week stretch, you know, where they were all playing. So I kind of give them a little credit for that. But honestly, even if they did play the whole season, they were still going to be terrible.
No,
Yeah, but when a good team faces injury trouble, they still are somewhat competitive. They show effort. And there was none of that.
No, there was none of that. Exactly. That's a great point. Is that you put on a Lakers game, they're playing the dang Suns, the dang Kings or somebody who is beyond out of contention, and they're just, you know, they'll give up a layup, and then you see these 4 Lakers guys just looking at each other like, hey, what was that? You know, it was just so sloppy all year, and yeah, disgraceful team.
Yeah, that is pathetic. Just awful year. And obviously, I think in a perfect world, you trade LeBron and AD now and get as many draft picks as you can, because they are literally screwed into like 2027. They have no picks.
Yeah.
They're all in for this little span. Obviously, they're not going to trade LeBron. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And AD can't stay healthy. I don't know what you can get for Russell Westbrook. They honestly may end up having to eat his contract and waive Russell Westbrook because no one wants to take on that $46 million player option. And that contract's horrible. And they tried to trade him at the deadline is what came out, and no one really wanted him, which is sad to me, man. I really like watching Westbrook play. He's fallen apart.
It has nothing to do with Westbrook's ability. It has to do with his ability to cost ratio.
Yeah, relative to his contract.
If Westbrook was $11 million a year, someone absolutely would have gone and gotten him, but not for 45.
It's too high.
That's ridiculous.
So I can't stand the Lakers, but it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they do next and where they go from here, because there's not a whole lot of options. And
I'm with Cut on this. If I'm the Lakers, I am literally starting from scratch.
Yeah.
I know people are like, you can't trade LeBron, but anyone is tradable. Yeah. If I am Jeannie Buss today, if I imagine all of you, I am Jeannie Buss.
It's not going to happen.
I am firing Pelinka. I'm telling Magic Johnson to stop whispering in my ear. I'm saying whoever gives me the best offer for LeBron James can have him. Whoever gives me the best offer for Anthony Davis can have him. Whoever will give me a Chipotle tortilla and pay half of Russell Westbrook's contract can have him. I'm literally just trying to get as many picks as I can in the next couple of years and maybe keep, I don't know, Carmelo Anthony, you know, so that at least something is there. But Carmelo's not even that expensive, you know?
Yeah.
Y'all talk about him having 0 players. That entire bench will be completely different. Trevor Ariza, Howard, all those guys are gone. Like, it's going to be a brand new team. Who they get, I don't know. It's going to be wild. All right, we need to move off NBA. Dillon, any last thoughts on NBA?
Could I just hit y'all's finals picks before we sign off?
Oh, great idea. How could I forget? You start the show, finals. You start here, finals picks.
Mine is so basic. I think it's going to be a rematch, Suns and Bucks.
Yeah, I can see that too. I'm going to go.
I hope it's not, but
I'm going to go Suns and Celtics in a very non-biased pick. Suns and Celtics.
Oh.
Yay.
You want me to go?
Well, before you go, I want to ask you this, Dillon. Do you see anybody beating the Suns out of the West? Because I think about it, I don't think so.
I think it's possible because Chris Paul also always gets hurt in playoffs.
Yep.
If he gets hurt again, I don't know what could happen. But I don't really believe in Memphis like that. I don't believe in Denver, Golden State. I think it's Phoenix's race to lose. I don't know what they are in Vegas, but I would imagine heavy favorites.
Yeah, I think they're above and beyond the rest of the West right now. They've kind of separated themselves. So if Luka gets healthy, maybe the Mavs. I don't know. The Suns are just on a different level right now. All right, your NBA final.
The Suns are rolling. From what I know right now, I'm taking the Suns, and out of the East,
Kevin Durant.
It's like dude.
Suns versus Kevin Durant. That's Yeag's pick.
I honestly don't know. The Bucks could go, the Sixers could go, the Celtics could go, the Nets could go, the Heat could go. Like,
What? The who before the Heat? Who'd you say?
the Celtics,
The Celtics?
they
No.
could. No, yeah, absolutely. Like, what I'm saying is, like, the East is like, it's literally like you could put all the names of the teams in a hat and pick one, and they'd have just as good a chance as anyone else, you know? And so, I mean, if I had to choose right now, who's the healthiest is what I'd say for the East. Whoever like happens to have 0 injuries, that's who's coming out of the East. You know, if Joel Embiid has a knee thing, you can count the 76ers out. If Kevin Durant has another Achilles thing, the Nets are done. If Jason Tatum sprains an ankle, the Celtics are out. Right? Like, I think like the toughest team, like the most durable team, is the Bucks. So I think that's what I'm going to take to come out of the East right now. I think it's going to be Suns Bucks again.
Bucks rematch. Cud, what about you?
Yeah.
Spurs,
Yeah.
Celtics?
Yeah, honestly, I think the Suns they're playing really good ball. They have really from the start. They got a great bench, great role players, and Chris Paul is hungry for that ring, you know, and I hope he gets one. So yeah, I'm taking Phoenix. I agree with Dillon. It's definitely their race to lose in the West. But honestly, I'm really excited to watch that Grizzlies ball club. I want to see how far they go. That team has more grit than the other teams in the league combined. They play great D.
They do.
And Jaw is just a ball player, so I'm excited there. Now in the East, I think it comes down to Boston and Milwaukee. I definitely could see Milwaukee rerunning it back. I don't have any faith in Miami and Chicago, and I don't have any faith in Philly. I don't think they could do it either. So honestly, I think it'll come down to the Bucks rerunning it back or the Celtics making a push.
I think people are counting out Miami, man. I was for a while, but Miami's got some depth on that team, and they got the easiest path to the finals out of anybody.
They do have a good
You got
path.
to get through the 8 seed, which is probably going to be Cleveland or Atlanta. Atlanta's running over Charlotte right now. And then they get the 4 seed, who's probably going to be Philly, who's not in great form right now. And they get the winner of the Celtics Bucks or the Nets Bucks to make Ye happy. So I don't know. Miami's not bad. They had a little bad stretch, kind of 75% way of the season. They put it together towards the end. So I think people are kind of sleeping on Miami. That's not my pick to come out of the East, but I think don't sleep on Jimmy Butler and Adebayo and Kyle Lowry and those guys. Hunter, NBA prediction.
I agree with everybody that the Suns are going to be coming out of the West. And then Cam, I'm sorry. I think because you're a Celtics fan and you're cursed, the Celtics are going to come out of the East and lose in the finals.
Hey, if that happens, I'll be thrilled because I got a nice future on the Celtics to win the East, so I'll be just fine.
That's fair. That's fair.
Very nice.
But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be Suns, Celtics, and the Suns are going to win.
I called that a while back. If the Celtics come out of the East, we'll probably lose in the finals. It's the Suns' time, and the Celtics got to go through a gauntlet just to get there. They got to beat the Nets, y'all's Nets, and then they got to beat the Bucks, and then Miami or Philly, and then you turn around and play Phoenix. So that'll be tough. Can they beat Phoenix if they get there? Absolutely, be a good series. It is wild to me that everyone is taking the Suns now. I never would have in a million years thought the Phoenix Suns be the best team in the NBA. For 2 years in a row. That's crazy to me. All right, we'll move off NBA.
And I think I want to say one more thing.
Okay.
Going back to MVP talk, I don't think Chris Paul gets enough credit.
He was
that
hurt.
guy is the.
Yeah, I agree.
He is. There's something to be said for him being kind of like the orchestrative glue of the Suns. Like if he doesn't play, like they can still figure it out, but they just become another pickup team. Like it's like playing pickup ball, right? I think Chris Paul puts it all together and leads them. Would they go 64-18, 63-19, something like that? You know, I think Chris Paul doesn't get enough love for MVP.
I agree with that. And Chris Paul is the piece that got the Suns over the hump. He really turned things around. When Chris Paul played for the Thunder, that was supposed to be the worst team in the league, and he got them to the playoffs.
Yes.
The guy's a culture guy. He wins everywhere. He can't put it together in the playoffs and get the ring. But if Chris Paul is on your team, you're going to the playoffs and you're going to be relevant. He's a legend for that.
Well, I don't think about all those years with the Clippers. Think about the Rockets. He went to Oklahoma City. Now he's with the Suns. I mean, when was the last time Chris Paul didn't make the playoffs?
When he was with the Pelicans, when he was like 22, probably long.
Yeah.
The Hornets.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably he's probably going on 10, 12 years of making the playoffs every year.
Yep.
Like the guy's an animal.
It's impressive. Yeah, he is a winner in the regular season.
One last thing before we close up basketball. I want to give a shout out to my man DeJounte Murray this year. He was incredible. I read an interesting stat today that he averaged 20 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals. The only other player to have a season averaging that, Michael Jordan. That's it.
Wow.
Ever heard of him?
Yeah. Jeff, I didn't hear LeBron on there.
He was not.
Or KD?
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I thought he took great strides this year. Hopefully we win tonight, Dillon. But yeah, so
DeJounte's awesome. I think he's done really well there, and he will continue to just get better. So,
yeah.
Dillon, you're the man. I appreciate you, man. We needed some NBA insight. Did the Spurs get it done tonight?
Oh, for sure. For sure. A 15-point win, I'm calling it now.
Wow, Spurs dominate the Pelicans.
Oh,
All right, Dillon, I appreciate it, man. We'll do this again soon. We'll talk some NBA. We're going to have a 2 whole months NBA, so we'll get it going. I appreciate it, brother.
Good. Thank y'all again for having me on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right.
All right, boys. That was fun. That was good. A lot of good NBA talk. There's a ton more to talk about. We didn't get to everything I wanted to get to. We'll touch more on it next week. So real quick, Cud, this week's Who the Hell Are You? And then we'll talk a little Masters golf.
this week, honestly, I had to try and decide between 2 guys. Man, honestly, they're both very deserving. You know, I'm probably going to go with Dave Roberts today, 100%. Dave Roberts.
Who?
Jeff, he's the manager of the Dodgers. So they're playing the Twins today, and Clayton Kershaw has a perfect game through 7 innings. Jeff, you know what a perfect game is or no? Hey.
Yes.
But anyway, so he had a perfect game going. I think he finished the 7th inning with 75 or 76
80 pitches.
Okay. So and anyway, so they pull him in a perfect game, 6 outs away, making history. I saw our guy Jeff Passan tweet, there's been over 227,000 baseball games played in MLB history. 23 perfect games ever. I thought that was terrible to rob him from that. Now, Clayton Kershaw came out after and said that, it was the right thing to do with his pitch count. That's a bunch of trash. I thought he said that to cover his managers behind from getting scalped by the media and Mason Cudd. But I mean, I thought that was
the latter having more weight.
Yeah. Exactly.
Complete disgrace. Robbed the game of history and Clayton Kershaw of history today. It was sad. We were all tuned in at work on our phones. They pulled him. I said, well, I hope they lose now.
Yep.
So yeah, Dave Roberts, you're an idiot.
The right move was to ask Kershaw if he wanted to go.
Yeah.
If there's a legitimate risk of injury, and he says, you know what, it's probably best if I don't go, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
It's an individual accomplishment. Let him make the call. He's earned it. He has done everything else there is to do in the game of baseball. Let him make that decision.
Correct.
He's probably never going to be in that position again. Kershaw's got 2 or 3 years left, maybe. Perfect games don't come around very often, man. We'll see some.
And see one in 10 years.
Yeah, we haven't seen a perfect game in forever. It's so hard to do a perfect game. That sucked. That pissed me off. I know. Hey, maybe Kershaw did say, "Hey, I'm good. I'm a good boss," but we won't know that.
And I think we can all agree that in the big picture of the Dodgers season, it was the right move.
Yes.
A perfect game does nothing for them. And it wasn't even a close game. It's not like they needed their hot pitcher out there. They were up by 7 runs.
Yeah.
It's not like they needed Kershaw to go back out there and finish off the game. So I understand why they did it, but as a baseball fan, it just sucks.
Yeah, it sucks for the game as a whole, man, because
Yeah.
we're going away from this. It's not going to be the last time this happens. Pitchers don't throw 110 pitches anymore.
No. And I tweeted from the 903 account today. If not today, then when? I mean, he made He had 12 Ks on 80 pitches through 7 innings. That doesn't happen. If you're not going to put out Clayton Kershaw on 80 pitches with 6 outs to go, it ain't going to happen again. Like, we're not going to see a perfect game again. There's a real chance we'll never see one again in a 9-inning game.
That's crazy. That sucks. That's just the way the game's going with analytics. So who the hell are you, Dave Roberts? I don't want to crunch the time on this. We're just going to run long because there was a very important golf tournament that happened last week. That was the Masters. And I am reevaluating the hell out of my life watching 25-year-old Scotty Scheffler go win the Masters, a guy who is a little older than me and you, Cud, and he's your age, right, Hunter? Or is he Yeager's age?
He's younger than us. He's Yeager's age.
He's my age, yeah.
He just won $3 million winning the Masters comfortably, too. As
hey, let me tell you,
he wins by 3 shots.
My game's in the shape I could give. If Scotty gave me 6, if he gave me 6, watch out.
How's the
side?
Maybe.
You striking the irons, Yake?
I've always been a good iron player. You know that. I'm actually putting the driver on a frozen rope right now. I don't know what happened. It's just come out of nowhere, but I'm just swinging. I'm letting it fly.
But we needed Jeffrey Yeager on Sunday hunting down Scotty and not Cam Smith.
Correct.
Hey, let me tell you, I would not have put it in the water on 12. I have the clutch gene, and that is undisputable.
So, Hunter, let me ask you this. We talk. That's a good point by Yeager, putting the water on 12. What happens on 12 for people who don't, follow the game maybe as closely as us? Because although there's a lot more eyes on the Masters than I really realized, Twitter was full of it.
They start going like this.
I mean, it's what, a 9-iron to that hole, and it kills people. Like we saw when Tiger won, everyone put it in the water on that hole.
Yeah.
But what's the deal on 12?
It's a couple things. So the first and the obvious one is the wind, right? So it's right in that bowl of all the pine trees. And so the wind will kind of get in there and just swirl. So that's the first thing. So there's a lot of uncertainty. But the hole also kind of goes, I don't know, it goes, the left side of the green is shorter than the right. So the carry on the right side of the green is longer. And for a right-handed hitter, that makes it more difficult because when you push it as a right-handed player, it goes shorter. And when you pull it, it goes longer. So your shot, your shot pattern is going to be like this, and the green runs like this. So when you pull it, you go back bunker. When you push it, you go water. It's much easier for a left-handed hitter because the left-handed pull is going to still carry the water if you miss it right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain. I hope this comes through on the podcast, all right? But so that's another thing because everybody who hits it in the water is a righty. And like Franny a couple years ago, Tony that same year, Cam Smith, Jordan Spieth back in 2016, they're all right-handed players and they all come up short right because the push goes shorter, especially with a short iron. So that's one reason that makes it tougher. And frankly, it's just a tough shot. It's only a 9-iron, but you don't have very much distance. You have to have your distance within 6 to 8 yards to land it on the green. And with that swirling wind, that's just not easy. And now, why do they go in the water? I don't know. I don't know why you even come close. You watch where Tiger hits it on that hole every day. He hits it between the 2 bunkers. That's what you do. You hit it between the 2 bunkers. Yeah. Yep. Scotty hit it left of the green.
He was not going short right. That was a please right swing.
Yes. And it's, I understand it's a difficult shot. I just laid out how it's a difficult shot. But you have to do everything in your power not to do that. And maybe in Cam Smith's defense, on 17 at the Players, you know what he did? He took a dead aim to a right flag on a par 3 and stuffed it and won the golf tournament. So maybe he got a little bit too big for his britches and thought he was going to do the same and win him a green jacket. I don't know. But either way, he hit it in the drink and lost the tournament. So
because it was still close at the time. He had just birdied 11 to
he
get
cut it to 2.
And then he drinks it on 12, and then it's like, okay, it's over now, and then has a disaster. But we see it every year in the Masters. 12 claims somebody in the final group every year. Jordan,
it's a hard shot.
Nightmares about 12. Every night he goes to bed. That hole kills him, and it's a 155-yard par 3.
Yeah,
which is crazy. It shows you how hard this stupid game is. So speaking of Scotty, Hunter, I want to ask you this: is Scotty that guy? Like, is he like? I don't want to say Tiger, obviously, but is he like? He's number 1 in the world. Well, we talk about Rahm this is the next guy. When Rory came on, this is the next guy. Is Scotty the next guy, or is he just one of these super top tier guys that's just red hot right now?
Man, I don't know. And I think I think I have a hard time saying yes, only because I know him. And so it sounds weird to say that this dude that I know and played college golf against is now far and away the best player on the planet and is going to be the best player on earth for the next decade.
Crazy.
But when you think about the way he plays the game, listen to this. So he's won 4 times in his last 6 starts. He won in Phoenix, playing in a dome on overseed rye. Okay. Then he won at Bay Hill on windy Bermuda that's firm. Then he won at Austin Country Club in a match play event on a short, quirky golf course in the wind. And then he won on a long, soft Augusta National. 4 totally different golf courses, different formats, different parts of the country, and didn't miss a beat. I mean, that's impressive. He doesn't have a weak part of his game. He seems to have figured out how to win. And since Ted Scott, so is Bubba Watson's old caddy, now caddies for Scotty.
Mhm.
Ted Scott has caddied for him his last 9 events. They've won 4 of them. So
That's incredible.
I mean, obviously this isn't going to keep up. To give you some perspective on how good this stretch has been, he has 4 wins at this point of the season, including a Masters. That's happened 1 time ever, and that was Arnold Palmer in 1960 to have 4 wins at this point of the season, including a Masters.
Wow.
Anytime there's only been one person to have done something, and that person is Arnold freaking Palmer, you're doing something right. So this isn't going to continue, but if I were Vegas and I had to set a number for total career majors for Scotty Scheffler, I'd probably set it at 4.5.
Really?
And I might be tempted to take the over.
I just think there's so many good, and it's not a knock on Scotty. He's awesome. There's just so many good players now. Like, I feel like every year we kind of go through this with like, okay, Colin won. How many majors is he going to win?
But listen, every one of these guys has a weakness. Colin can't putt. Victor can't chip. Who else is there? Patrick Cantlay. He's super inconsistent.
AT can't keep a driver on the planet.
No. And everybody has a something like a kryptonite. And you watch Scotty play and he just doesn't. And even before he started winning, you'd watch him play and you'd think, how is this guy not winning every week? He drives it well, hits his irons well, wedges it good. He chips and putts well. Like, I don't understand how he's not winning all the time. And now he's all of a sudden started to win.
When he dominated Rahm in the Ryder Cup in the fall, that's when I was kind of like, okay.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
Good.
This was back in college, but I'll tell you this quick story. So my junior year, we played the national championship up in Oregon, right? And that was back when Aaron Wise won the individual championship, and he played at Oregon. So it was like it was a big deal. Golf Channel went nuts. They were like falling all over themselves to talk about Aaron Wise. So Texas played Oregon in the final match, the championship match, and Scotty wanted to play Aaron. And Aaron Wise, Scotty railed him. I think Scotty shot 63 that day and beat him head up in match play in the championship match to win the national, or they didn't win the national championship, but he beat Aaron Wise. Aaron Wise made like a 60-footer on hole 15 and just lost his freaking mind. Looked like Rory that year when he made that long putt against Patrick Reed. Scotty had like a 15-footer down the hill to cover him up and buried it and just went nuts right back at him. And as soon as he made that putt, I thought, this dude's different. Like to have the whole world pulling for Aaron Wise, he goes nuts, looks like he's going to come back and beat you, and Scotty just slammed the door in his face. I thought, this dude is different. And I think people are starting to see it. It's crazy how good he is.
Yeah, he's like you say all the time, and I'm stealing it. I'm using it way too much. He is nails. Like the chip that he had on 3 when he got off to a real rocky start, and Cam Smith birdied the first 2.
Right. He went par.
But Bob, he snipe hooks his driver left on 1, snipe hooks it again on 3. He was crawling around. He made some good pars.
He was fine.
And he holds that chip on 3, and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy's insane. So go to some big picture stuff. Cut, I want to ask you, what were your thoughts on this year's Masters? Did you enjoy it? Was the we didn't really get a crazy Sunday like we did when Tiger won. It just kind of, it was Scotty's tournament and just enjoying golf at that point. So what'd you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. At first, it kind of started off slow. I think with the first day, the leader, what was Cameron Smith? Was he 4 under or something like that after that double or
Yeah,
something?
Cam and I think Sung Jae may have been leading at 5,
Yeah,
but
so
Cam was right
so
there.
they were right there. It wasn't like out of the gate, just like two guys just take off. So it was kind of all right there from the beginning, and then the second round, the wind was crazy. So pretty much everyone was kind of right there. My man JT played great, came from the dead on the second round. He was in the 70th place, mushed all the way back, make the cut. And then, Scotty and Cam and them, they kind of started slowly separating from the pack. And, at that last round where it was just him and Cam going back and forth, man, whenever Cam cut it to 1, you could feel like Cameron was saying, I mean, Scotty was kind of hitting it all over the place, and Cam was just on a roll out of the gate. I was like, oh, this is going to come down to the last shot of the tournament, and then it felt like Scotty was just kind of, he could probably feel the momentum swing, especially with, I mean, everyone on the course was watching him play that whole round. So the fans are going crazy, and all that stuff. And like you were saying, Hunter, hell, he made pars. So it wasn't like he was getting bogeys and hitting it out of bounds and stuff like that.
He
But
didn't pull a Rory back in 2011 where he made triple on 10 and just fall
yeah,
apart.
exactly. But so I thought that was a big turn, and that chip in was just massive. I mean, that completely 180 the momentum, and then he was kind of back in the driver's seat because I think when he chipped that in, Cam bogeyed. So it was a 2-shot swing right there.
Right back to 3.
Yeah, right back to 3 after he just cut it to 1. So, and then, they were kind of going back and forth, and then 12 was a disaster for Cam, and then from then on, it was Scotty's tournament, But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And like you were saying about Scotty, this run he's on is, like you were saying, the different types of terrain he was playing in, and how he had to shape his game according to those courses. And that says a lot about that stretch, in my opinion, of winning, and so, yeah, I think, and like Cameron said, we've been saying, all of us have been saying of how incredible the talent level is in the field. And, like you said, Hunter, Scotty's going to be a problem in the game.
Man,
for a long
I
time.
want to say one more thing about Scotty. Did y'all watch his press conference after he won?
Yes.
It was
Wild.
remarkable.
Yeah.
He said, well, y'all saw, but he had a quote.
Yeah.
He had a quote where he said that before he teed off on Sunday, he cried like a baby. He said he looked at his wife and said, "I'm not ready for this moment. I'm not ready." Just, can you imagine, especially after watching him go out there and execute the way that he did under pressure? The dude was crying like a baby, saying he's not ready for this.
Which is
And
which
then
is
he
crazy
won.
when you watch him play. Like it's
Yes.
crazier to, because he is rock solid. The guy
Yes.
doesn't blink, he doesn't phase, and for that to happen, man, that's pretty wild to me. It's kind of
It was one of the most relatable things.
yeah.
I mean, I've never played in a Masters. I've played in some big golf tournaments in my life, and I've had that feeling, right? You go out there before the tournament starts and you think, I don't belong here. I'm not good. I can't pull this off.
We know a smaller amount of the feeling. We can't relate quite, but just a little bit. Kind of.
I think everybody in some capacity has felt out of their depth. And to feel that much out of your depth and that much scrutiny and to go out there and execute like that is otherworldly how good it is.
Remarkable. Good for Scotty. And I'm really looking forward to watching him play for the next few years because he's awesome. Hits the ball well, putts it well, great wedge game. He's got no weaknesses, like you said. So it's gonna be really, really fun to watch Scotty continue to, he said Southern Hills is his favorite golf course. And that's where the PGA
Well,
is.
that's in the Big 12 championship rotation. So he played it quite a bit in college.
That's why. Okay. But there you go. There's your favorite to win the PGA right there. So I want to ask this, and then I want to get to Tiger. And I know he's got some pretty good thoughts talking about, I think some things may get a little heated there with Tiger as well. So Hunter, I want to ask you this one thought, because I want to close with Tiger. So let me ask you this about Rory real quick. Do we think he's ever going to win a green jacket? Guy's awesome. That 64 on Sunday is one of the best rounds I've ever seen, but he can't get off to a good start. And, who am I to criticize Rory? But Thursday, Friday Rory is a lot different than Saturday, Sunday Rory. Sunday Rory is the best player I've ever seen, ever. He's unbelievable, but he's too far out of it. Like, I told Garrett, my roommate, before, I said, I just want to see somebody go off today, whether it's JT, Rory, somebody go off like Spieth did when Patrick Reed won it and make it interesting.
Mhm.
Rory did that. He was an outside chance, but he had a shot. 64, awesome round. But why can't he put it together for 4 rounds? And then you think he will ever win a green jacket, or is that going to be the one that just kind of eludes him? He's still plenty young.
Yes, I do think he'll win one. I do. And I think Sunday's round has a lot to do with the fact that I think he's going to win one. I think even though he didn't win, he executed under the gun, which I think means more to your confidence moving forward than actually winning. You know, I've told you this, Cam, when Brooks Koepka won the PGA at Bethpage, I think it was 2019, he fell apart on Sunday, but still won, and he hadn't been the same since. Like, he's got it in the back of his head, oh, I fell apart. He's got demons. He does not look like the same golfer anymore since that day. But Rory, even though he didn't win the Masters, he executed when he had to, and I think he's going to have the opposite of that Brooks Koepka effect. He has those shots back there at Augusta in his head now. Look what I did when I felt like I had to on this golf course. So I think that's going to play a pretty big role. And I got to confess something to you guys. I've not been a Rory fan. I found myself loving watching that 64.
Me too.
And that's not something I ever thought I would say. I mean, that was some of the most fun I've had watching golf in a long, long time.
Man, when he holed that bunker shot on 18, I was so happy for him.
Well, listen to this. That Nick Faldo deserves the death penalty for what he did on the broadcast. So we all heard the roar, right? They were showing Cam Smith's putt on 12, and we heard the roar, and we're like, oh, something just happened. And Nick Faldo says, I'm not going to spoil it, but something incredible just happened. So then they go over to Rory standing in a bunker. Oh, great. I wonder what happens here. One of the coolest moments in my lifetime at the Masters was ruined by Sir Nick Faldo. Death penalty.
What's going through his head at that mind? Like, obviously in golf, you know, okay, something crazy just happened. Oh, let's go to Rory. Obviously, we know what's going in. It was still awesome. But, like, we leave some surprise for us, Faldo.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? What are you doing? And that was
Wow. I hated it.
I did not have that happen. I had the tournament on mute, so I saw the Rory shot like totally ignorant.
But see,
you know what I would do? I would pay good money. Sorry, Cam. I'd pay good money for a stream where I could hear the crowd, but no announcers. Still give me the scoreboard up on the screen. Still give me the person that's hitting, what shot they're hitting, where they stand in the tournament. Give me all the crowd noise. No announcers. They ruined it. They had nothing to the broadcast. Ian Baker Finch is a disgrace to announcing. They're terrible. I'd pay good money for that.
Oh,
what's wrong with the
bro? You know who? Dude, I was watching Golf Channel for the Masters the whole week, and there's not a soul on earth I would love to see lose his job than Brandel Shamlin.
Oh, well, you got my signature on that one. If we're getting him off, he's off.
He has got to be just the biggest stuck-up loser I have ever seen commentate golf. He didn't have a single good thing to say about anyone. He was critiquing everyone's swing like he was just all-knowing. I mean, the guy is just full of himself for no reason. There are like a handful. I love people, right? And I love getting along with people. I love making friends with people. But there are a handful of people that, no questions asked, I would give them a Mike Tyson left hook if I ever ran into them in the middle of the street. And Brandel Chambly just got on that list.
Yeah, he's been on my list for a long time.
Yeah. I hate that guy.
Hunter, why do we hate Ian Baker Finch? What's wrong with him?
When was the last time Ian Baker Finch said something and you thought, you know what, Ian, that was a good point. That added something to my experience watching this golf tournament. Never.
Wow. I don't know if I can watch the golf from with no announcing though, especially like the RBT Heritage this weekend.
Oh no, that's different. The Masters.
You know what they need to do? The announcers is they should have like past Masters champions come in.
Nick Faldo is one of them.
Yeah. I mean, he won it 3 times, didn't he?
I know, but I'm talking like recent. I'm talking about like Phil, didn't play in the Masters, but he could come in and give great commentary. I
think the problem is they get people who were good golfers to go be announcers.
Yeah.
Like I used to.
But the thing is, the crowd.
Listen,
that 95% of the crowd that's watching the Masters doesn't know who Nick Faldo is.
That's not true.
I would beg to differ, but okay.
Yeah,
The average public watch the Masters doesn't know who Nick Faldo is. I would say that's
I agree with
That doesn't
I
change
agree
the
with
fact that he's
Hunter.
not good at his job. Listen, just because you were a good golfer doesn't mean you're good at calling golf. We had the same problem with Johnny Miller. He was terrible.
worst ever.
Yeah. So everybody, and we shouldn't be talking about this. It's a waste of our time. He's terrible.
Yeah, Faldo sucks.
To answer your question, yes, Rory McIlroy will win a Masters, and I don't think I'll hate it. I'm coming around on him the same way I came around on Sergio. You know, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. Golf is more interesting when Rory's playing well, so I'd like to see it.
No doubt about that. And I found myself rooting for Rory hard on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like I've turned the tide on him big time. He's become super likable the older he's got.
That moment when he and Colin both chipped in on 18 is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And Nick Faldo he took it from all of us.
Yeah. Damn you, Nick Faldo. Okay, so last thought. This is a long pod. Just bear with me.
I would like to say something about Scotty first. That guy, I think, is going to be good and win for a long time. And there's 3 reasons. Number one, he doesn't get emotional over his game. Like, you never see him get down on himself. You never see him get too hyped. He's very steady. Number 2, what was it? Oh, number 2, he's uber competitive. Like, there are people that just will want to win and will find a way to win. And then there's people that'll win if like things are going good for them. And Scotty Scheffler is one of those guys. I mean, look at his swing. You have everyone telling him you can't, like, this swing is weird and this and that. But he's found a way to win his whole life. And there are people who just win. And number 3 is Scotty values himself outside of golf as a person. And I think when you're like, because you talk about Brooks, I think Brooks Koepka values himself based on his golf game, right? He says, I am cool and I am awesome because I'm really good at golf. But I think Scotty, you know, he goes home and sits down and he's like, I'm really nice to people. I love myself. You know, I like who I am. I like the decisions I've made in life. If I lost golf tomorrow, I would still be a really happy guy. And I think that is going to help him in the long haul for winning a lot of golf tournaments.
Yeah. I've heard this analogy before. Some guys are pitchers and other guys are throwers, right? So Scotty is a pitcher. He goes out there and he knows how to hit golf shots and he knows when to hit this shot, when to hit that shot. And he has a ton of talent. Guys like Rory, they're just throwers. Like Rory has a 102-mile-an-hour heater, and when it's on, nobody beats him. But when he loses command, he doesn't know what to do with it, right? So you take a guy like Scotty who does have that, he has all the talent in the world, and he does have that nice heater, but he's also got some wicked off-speed stuff he can go to whenever the heater's not on, and that guy's dangerous. And I think, man, the more we talk about it, I really think he's going to be around for a long time.
I agree.
Golf's in great hands. So many. We're talking about the NBA. How much young talent they have. Golf's the same way. There's so much talent across the board, and Scotty is top tier guy. So I want to move on. Last thing, we'll talk Tiger. Tiger, incredible. I can't believe he played. I really didn't expect to see Tiger play. He played and made the cut, put together a nice round on Thursday. And in my opinion, a pretty good round Friday. Got off to a bad start, weathered the storm, and then made the cut. So I was happy for Tiger. He played terrible on the weekend, 78, I believe. Game just wasn't there. He looked beat up. He looked hurt. Putter failed him. But I didn't care. I was just happy to wake up and see Tiger play. I didn't think I'd ever see that again. I know Jeff has kind of his thoughts on Tiger, but I don't know. I was excited to see him. I didn't expect Tiger to win. You know, obviously got my hopes up just a touch when he played good on Thursday, but we all knew in the back of our mind he's not going to win this thing. But it was cool to see him. So, yay, I'll give you the floor on Tiger. Your thoughts on how he did this week in the Masters.
I don't know why everyone's giving me so much flack like I hate Tiger Woods or something. I love Tiger Woods. Adore Tiger Woods. He's the greatest. I hate when people bring up the whole Jack Nicklaus thing. Jack Nicklaus was playing amongst like maybe 3 other guys that were capable of winning a golf tournament, you know, back in that day. It was him, Greg Norman, Palmer, and I don't know, Joe Schmo from
Gary Player.
Tennessee, right? Yeah, sure, whatever. Who cares? Tiger is by far the greatest golfer and maybe the most like transcendent and influential athlete ever. I just like the only thing Tiger shot 1 under Thursday, 1 over Friday, and I was like, this is awesome. Right? Or was it 2 over on Friday? Something like that. He was like
Yeah.
right around even going into the weekend.
Over.
But watching him Saturday and Sunday, it was just hard to watch. Hard to watch someone that I've loved for so long that has been so good and has like won so much, to watch him play like that and miss so many putts. It was just difficult to see. And I'm not saying Tiger's a bad golfer. He obviously needs to get his leg healed. He obviously needs, get to the point where he's 100% healthy and confident in himself and can, feels like he really can go win. But it was just like, man, they kept putting Tiger on because he's a big, part of viewership. And I was like, man, this is just hard to watch. I almost like don't enjoy watching this because you never like watching a guy that's injured, just keep kicking himself in the shin.
Well, you're right. You're right. So I'm going to say something. I have to explain it. For me, Tiger's career is over. And in my heart,
no,
he has nothing left to prove to me. I mean, he never did, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like as a fan, I don't expect anything more of Tiger Woods.
You don't need to see him win again. Like it's
the moment he won the Masters in 2019, we were square. Like he had done everything he needed to do in my eyes. And so anytime I ever see him on a golf course now, it's good. It's gravy. It doesn't matter how he plays. It doesn't matter what he shoots. I'm happy. And I have had to basically divorce myself from the idea of Tiger ever contending again. And if it does, great. I'm obviously going to be pulling for him. I'm not going to put anything past the guy. If he comes out there at the British Open on at St. Andrews and he contends to win the tournament, I won't be shocked at all. But I'm not going to get my hopes up because he and I are square. He owes me nothing in my mind, and which sounds stupid. Obviously, he doesn't. You know what I mean, though.
I see what you're saying.
And so I think that's where you and I were disagreeing this weekend, Jaeger, is that I don't care that he shoots 78 on the weekend. He was out there at Augusta National, and we got to see it one more time. Think about how lucky we are. We're going to tell our grandkids that we got to see the greatest golfer ever play. And we're so fortunate to see it. And I've moved on to that stage in my Tiger fanhood. And so I just, the reason I was kind of getting on you this weekend is I think it's wrong to expect anything from it. I think that's where you went wrong.
Yag?
Maybe. I think Tiger could have definitely putted a lot better. Right. Like I watched
anytime he's ever come back from injury, he's putted bad. It's because we forget he had back surgery right before his accident. So he's still got a jacked up back, which means he can't practice putting because he can't stay bent over for that long. So his putting is going to be bad for basically all of eternity. So that's something that we're just going to have to get used to. We're going to have to hope he just gets hot with the putter. But
I'm not talking about like missing 12 footers for birdie and this and that. I'm talking like he had a 4-putt, he had a bunch of 3 putts.
I know.
Like
I watched every shot.
At the end of the day, like even if you're a bad putter, you can try and lag it to a couple feet. But granted, it is Augusta, so it's not, hey, just lag it to 2 feet, okay, coming right up, anything like that. But dude, like I think more than anything, it was just hard for me to watch it because I don't like to watch anyone struggle at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only other like even comparison I can think of is I had to watch Derrick Rose tear and re-tear his ACL, MCL, 3 times. And I was like, man, maybe he should just retire because if I got to watch Derrick Rose injure his knees one more time, I'm going to cry in my bedroom.
But when Derrick Rose comes back and he just has an off night and he goes 1 for 9 from the field,
he had 50.
Listen, hear me out. Whenever he has a bad night and you watch him play, are you thinking, man, I can't believe that he played so bad? Or are you thinking, well, I'm so glad he's back and playing basketball?
No, I am thinking like, man, I love D Rose. He is what made me love basketball.
Exactly. That's where I am with Tiger.
It's just good to see him at this point. Would it be great to see him contend again? Yes, but I don't expect it. I don't expect to ever see it again. It's just good to see him on TV.
And I said it last week, man. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if he just kind of lets the young guys take over.
Yeah.
I really don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
No, I agree. So does anybody think this weekend was a failure for Tiger?
No.
No, not at all.
No.
I think
To make the cut was awesome.
and
Yeah.
you could kind of see when he was walking off 18, he got the big ovation. In his eyes, he's like, man,
Yep.
you could tell he's thinking, it's pretty cool that I just pulled that off.
I heard a story this week that when he was kind of at the low of his recovery, he said he missed being on the golf course so bad he would just go outside and lay in his yard just to be close to grass. Think about that. Think about what this week meant to him, to get to go out and hit golf shots and to feel the crowd again. I mean, the dude, it had to have just meant the world. And it was so cool to see it. And it was cool to see him understand that it's probably bigger than a score this week. And that was cool.
No doubt. Well, gentlemen,
Perspective.
long pod. A lot of good NBA talk, golf talk. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up today? Nothing else.
Well, let's just say our Rangers are off to a rough start.
Nets Celtics Sunday, 1:30 p.m.
Yep, that's Mountain Time. 3:30 Hunters time, 2:30 Central me and Cubs time. Boston Celtics.
I might drive to Vegas just for it to be an hour earlier. 12:30.
Man, I can't wait. Everything aside, it's going to be a fun series. That's going to be the most watched series of the first round, no doubt. In my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
All eyes are going to be on that game.
Part of me wishes it was the Eastern Conference Finals where those two were coming together, because I'm gonna be honest. Beyond that, say Celtics Bucks match up in the second round. Will I be as just amped to watch Giannis and Jason Tatum go at it? No, probably not.
I can't wait. Celtics, Texas Rangers. We had a baseball pod last week. You suck. Horrible start. We're 1-4.
We just need patience. Just give us some patience, Cam.
Got like 20 errors on the season. Same old rags. Sad.
We'll get it figured out.
Hopefully. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Dillon, thanks for joining the pod. Enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see y'all next week.